Night and day are catching hell. People think I'm doing well just because I sing a few calypso. But that is my misery. Calypso don't make money, but most of them don't know that I have my axe to grind, just like any other man, existing in poverty, and this giant ghetto lamb. But I intend to hang on. Tell them for me, no dice. I ain't gonna eat lice. I ain't gonna grow old, sitting in the cold, not me. No way, they go have to beat me. They go have to eat me, or the heads go roll. Tell them I say I was born in this land, I go die in this land. Nobody go run me from where me come from. Nobody go run me, lad. Nobody go run me. Nobody go run me. Nobody go run me. Me woman must yam. Me papa must yam. Me woman must yam. Me pickle must yam. Nobody go run me. Nobody go run me. Nobody go run me, lad. Nobody go run me. Life ain't much for us to choose. Some we win and some we lose. But sometimes life is so confusing. I had a lot of friends one time whom I used to wine and dine and gave them bread when they need it. Now most of them against me. Take me, make the enemy. Simply because I am not what they all want me to be. And with the political views I can't agree. But tell them for me, no dice. I ain't gonna eat lice. I ain't gonna grow old, sitting in the cold, not me, LG. No way, they go have to beat me. They go have to eat me, or the heads go roll. Tell them I say I was born in this land, I go die in this land. Nobody go run me from where me come from. Nobody go run me. Nobody go run me. Nobody go run me. Nobody go run me. Me mama must yam. Me papa must yam. Me woman must yam. Me pickle must yam. Nobody go run me. Nobody go run me. Let go. 12 years I at CBC, work at Halcyon for free when they went bankrupt and had no money. Because of my tolerance, they gave me the assurance the job belongs to me. But I hear some people hide in our society. They don't like my calypso because they can't control me. So they plan to kick out my ass. Tell them, party no dice. I ain't gonna eat lice. I ain't gonna grow old, sitting in the cold, not me shorty. No way, all you have to beat me. All you have to bury me more than 6 feet and more. Tell them I say I was born in this land, I go die in this land. Nobody go run me from where me come from. Nobody go run me. Nobody go run me. Nobody go run me. Nobody go run me. Me mama must yam. Me papa must yam. Me woman must yam. Me pickle must yam. Nobody go run me. Nobody go run me. Election come and gone. Some of them treat me with scorn. Others put the whole point against me. Tell them I don't give a damn. I am going to sing my song exactly as I see it. Whoever want to make me a political enemy, who feel that they're playing God and could wreck the life for me, tell them I ain't running away. Tell them for me no dice. I ain't gonna eat lice. I ain't gonna grow old, sitting in the cold, not me shorty. No way. All you have to beat me. All you have to bury me more than 6 feet and more. Tell them I say I was born in this land, I go die in this land. Nobody go run me from where me come from. Nobody go run me. Nobody go run me. Nobody go run me, lad. Nobody go run me. Me mama must yam. Me papa must yam. Me woman must yam. Me pickle must yam. Lad, nobody go run me. And vegans, wake up, open up your eyes. Your country needs you. Hope you realize our government is abusing its power and authority, and it is having adverse effects on the whole country. It is time for us to take a stand. After all, this is our native land. That is why I came back to sing, to expose the wicked things they're perpetrating. It is only time for the self-destruct. Greed and power is their TNT. Their purpose in government was for the bucks. They don't really care about this country. All the scheming, conniving plans have caught up with them. They are facing insurmountable problems, and just as sure as the sun will rise, this government must fall. The handwriting is on the wall. Minister, I'm like a dictator. If with him you don't agree, you can't progress in your country. Our government has no respect for the business community. No dialogue, they only passing laws indiscreetly. Taxing the poor ones who have no money, while their friends live in luxury. As a family and the Prime Minister and them young boys think they're Antigua. It is only time for the self-destruct. Greed and power is their TNT. Their purpose in government was for the bucks. They don't really care about this country. All this scheming, conniving plans have caught up with them. They are facing insurmountable problems, and just as sure as the sun will rise, this government must fall. The handwriting is on the wall. Island and victimization to those who express dissatisfaction with the way this government's squandering this country's revenue, accepting no accountability for the underhand things they just do, ostracizing those who say they are no good, and rewarding their friends some with knifewood. Hurricane mash up the place and Halcyon. I oppose them, so they come and take back the land. It is only time for the self-destruct. Greed and power is their TNT. Their purpose in government was for the bucks. They don't really care about this country. All the scheming, conniving plans have caught up with them. They are facing insurmountable problems, and just as sure as the sun will rise, this government must fall. The handwriting is on the wall. I am the boss. Don't have the airport. Ask God and Marshall. Look what I did to Percy. He was standing in the way of my daughter's future. So I demoralized him with the aid of the newspaper. But the tolerate this man's mentality. Will my people be bought out by duty free? If we don't remove them in the next election, it will be a problem for the future generation. So I will leave them alone. Let them self-destruct. Greed and power is their TFT. Their purpose in government was for the bucks. They don't really care about this country. All this scheming, conniving plans have caught up with them. They are facing insurmountable problems, and just as sure as the sun will rise, this government must fall. The handwriting is on the wall. Search of peace and happiness, the human mind wouldn't rest. A constant knock within result, and the wisdom from the world. We get the urge in different form. Love sorry is the norm. Money is very essential. So have I peace of mind as well. We still like dogs without a bone if we have the money alone. Appreciation based on the human mind. Everyone needs some more happiness all the time. Because important if we are trying to live. Everyone's on the hunt. Everyone ought to live generously. The feeling has no barrier. Race and class doesn't matter. Once you're alive, you win the game. You do anything to get a good name. Some wealthy men turn to suicide. Can't find food to feed their pride. The aged and crippled in the rain, try to feel like a king. Children become delinquents, like a love from the parents. That's why appreciation is most important to man. And I do appreciation based on the human mind. Everyone needs some more happiness all the time. It was important if we had tried to live. Everyone's on the hunt, every man ought to give generously. To put us in the happy zone, regardless of what we own. Life is lonely without it. Each one should give a little bit. Do what you want your neighbors do, then life on earth will be true. Take a tip from the scripture. Appreciate one another. Share your love and make him whole. For total peace in the world. Everybody sing with me. Sing with me. Sing with me. Appreciation is on the human mind. Everyone needs some for happiness all the time. It was important if we had tried to live. Everyone's on the hunt. Every man ought to do.
Yes, sir. Thank you, God. Thanks to the ancestors for making me West Indian. Thank you, God. Thank you, ancestors, for making me Guyanese. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, God. Thank you to the ancestors for making me Black. Thank you, God. Thank you, Jesus. Thanks to the ancestors for making me a Buxtonian. I have been whipped for being West Indian when it's not trendy to be West Indian. I've been whipped for being Guyanese when those in power and authority have embarrassed Guyana. I've been hammered for being Black by those who fear Blackness, for those who demean Blackness, and for those who are ashamed of being Black. But thank you, God. Thank you, ancestors, for keeping me Black. When the West Indian in me goes on holiday, when the Guyanese in me cannot show its face, it is the Blackness in me that keeps me going. Go tell it on the mountains that I'm glad to be Black. Good evening. Please share the link. Don't be afraid of the Black man. Do not be afraid of being Black. It's Friday night, and it's a night when lots of things happen. It's a night when you throw back and say, thank God it's Friday. Thank God the work week is over. and you can just throw black. And have a good one. Yes. Friday night. And even the black man can enjoy your Friday night.
Talk about housework you're doing. Tonight we going and have some fun. I just feeling the party the way we used to when we was young. Just put on something sexy so you'll be free to move around. Make sure the children okay. We ain't coming home until morning come. Tonight the black man feeling the party. Tonight the black man feeling the jam, 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 jam. Tonight the black man just feels the boogie, woogie. Come on, hold on to your man. And then we do, and then we do, and then we do a little. Live with worries by the doorstep, but after night we have no time. We gon' deal with that tomorrow. Tonight we going out and line. We gon' do a little soca. We gon' do a little grind. We gon' do a little back. I show them youngsters how to wine. Tonight the black man feeling the party. Tonight the black man feeling the jam, 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 jam. Tonight the black man just feels the boogie, woogie. Come on, hold on to your man. And then we do, and then we do, and then we do a little. Oh,
The black man himself, Black Stallion. Them chaps. Deep and brave, Black Stallion. I think that name was given to him by the late great Lord Kitchener. You had to be brave to take the name Black Stallion in the 1960s. Because Stalin, of course, was the Russian leader, Soviet leader, and of course, black meant that you had to be in the back. And my brother said, I am the black man, Black Stallion, the black man. Borrowing from Stalin, the gumption to stand up, but totally black. And one of the memorable moments in Caribbean political discourse was the exchange between Eric Williams and Black Stallion, because Black Stallion said we all came on the same ship from the same place. And we have to pull one common intention for we women and we children. And Eric Williams, the great historian, the great intellect, and some would say the great leader, said Stalin was being parochial. And he asked Stalin, what about the Indian and the Chinese and the Portuguese? They didn't come on that ship. And Stalin replied that the ship was a symbol for all of us. That we all came on ships. But the larger point was, if you take away that ship that brought the African, the story changes dramatically. Good evening and welcome to Politics 101. Please share the link. Not many of you are doing so tonight. Maybe you're all still partying. The black man feeling to party. The black man feeling to have a good time. You know, revolutionaries do party and have a good time. And there's that thing that the black man, the black woman love too much a party. And there is that's criticism that black people end up on nothing. All they want for this party, they want to take book, they want to walk. That's the criticism that comes from outside the black community. Then there's the self-criticism that comes from within the black community, that black people like too much a party. Crocodile said when I was busting my liver string and telling black people what coming, black people asking me about Spectrum or the Atlantic plane. So there is criticism from outside the community of partying. And then there is self-criticism that comes from within the community. And people sometimes get it confused. You all know the old story. People from outside the community call black people niggers. And that is unacceptable. But the youngsters, you know, inside the black community, what's up, my nigger? And those of us who are unsure about it had to learn the hard way. When the young brother said, what's up, my nigger? It's a term of endearment. When people outside the community call you a nigger, endearment, that's racism. Not everybody's bought on that theorization. But you know, we all grew up. When your parents get vexed with you, they say, carry a nigger man, you're a nigger man. So we've always played around with these terms and how they're used within the community and outside the community. Black man feeling to party. Good evening. Thanks. I've gotten a lot of feedback on the last two programs, Wednesday night and last night, where we tackle some hard questions. And a friend was telling me about half an hour ago that WIN parliamentarian, Sister Natasha Singh Lewis, did a live today, and she apparently heard last night's program. And she was, I haven't seen it, but a friend was telling about it, and that she, in a sense, acknowledged that I raised some hard question that Indian people, although WIN's leader is an Indian man, Indian people are not coming out to condemn the harassment of him by the government. And that she was glad that I raised that point. And she's an Indian woman. I haven't seen it. This is reported, as I said, reported speech. So I hope I'm not misquoting Natasha, because I haven't seen the video. It's a friend who told me about it. And I did not have enough time to go to it, but I'll try to look at it later on tonight. So I'm depending on what they call reported speech. And sometimes you raise these hard questions and you think, oh boy, as the Americans would say, or Guyanese and West Indians would say, oh boy. But you often don't realize where you're touching and what you're touching. And this is one of the profundities of the human experience. Because I made that observation, because to me it is self-evident. But if you live in a society like ours that refuses to confront the racial dynamic, it is not so obvious. You know, things become obvious when people who have a microphone either you have a mass media program, that's a microphone, or you're lucky to have gone on to some of these high institutions of learning and you get some training here and there, and that in itself gives you a microphone. Or you would have participated in the struggles of the people over a period of time that gives you some political capital, that's a microphone. And God and the ancestors have, I think, blessed some of us, like myself. You're able to go on to these big institutions of learning. You were able to travel the world a little bit and observe things in real time. And you're participating in the struggles of your people. And then in this the age of social media, you're afforded a platform like this. Your microphone becomes a little bit larger than others. And it's how you use it. And some of us have decided to use that relatively large microphone to say some things that if your microphone is not as large, you may not have the opportunity to say it. You see, our Caribbean, our Guyana, as I've said over and over here, is a complex place. Are complex places, spaces, islands of globalization. We were globalized long before what we now call globalization. European greed, African labor, indigenous peoples' lands. The same thing today. Third world, so-called third world countries providing cheap labor. Whether it's Guyana or wherever, our land, our oil and gas. And the same European greed. Professor Rex Nettleford said, globalization is just a new designation for an old obscenity. We were always globalized. And so when you say Islands of Globalization, it was the title of a course that I taught at university. It was a course in political economy, Islands of Globalization. But these islands of globalization are complex spaces. And to make sense of them, you have to appreciate the complexity. And sometimes to speak to our phenomena, you have to bring to bear that complexity because our people are complex. And what academics tend to do or political activists too, we tend to come up with these theories and we try to fit societies into these theories. It's easy to say Guyana doesn't have a race problem. Easy. Then you go on and you deal with your stuff. It's easy to say Guyana is a democracy. You listen to some intelligent Guyanese, and they will tell you, this country, we have to try and hold on to our democracy. And our democracy is this, and our democracy is that. And then 2 minutes later, they tell you about all the terrible things that are going on in the country. And they just tell you the country is a democracy, you know. It's easy to say Guyana is a democracy. Problem finished. It's easy to say Aubrey North is unelectable. Problem finished. It's easy to say that WPA brings nothing to the table and they're a small party. Problem finished. You don't have to worry anymore. You don't have to think anymore. Happily, I do not come from that school of thought. I do not come from that strand of politics. I come from the school of thought. I come from the strand of politics that says that if a place and a people experience 400 years of enslavement, another 150 years of colonialism, there can be nothing simplistic about that. Brother Bob said, man to man is so unjust. Only your friend knows your secret, so only he can reveal it. A society that has undergone what we have undergone, what we underwent in this Caribbean, can never be a simplistic society. It's a complex society. So when people say, well, you know, black people gotta stop going to school and go and get into business or go and do agriculture, it sounds good to the ear, you know. Not remembering that there was a time when black people were not permitted to be educated. And so to be educated today is in effect a medium of equality, to show our equality. And you're asking us to give it up. Black people have to get into business, they have to get into agriculture, and they have to get into education. The big debate between Booker T. Washington and W.B. Du Bois, two of the great African Americans at the turn of the 20th century. Booker T said, let down your buckets where you are and learn a trade. Out of that came Tuskegee and these trade schools in the South. In effect, telling African Americans to accept their second-class citizenship. Don't fight for no political rights and all of that. Just learn a trade and make money. And Du Bois said, no, I don't reject black people learning a trade, but they must go on to get a formal education, a university education, and he came up with the thesis of the talented 10. That while those on the ground are learning trade, let some go and get a formal university education and come back to the community. And it is these two forces that will lift the community, the Black uplift. And so we've always had this dialogue in the community. And it deepens whenever we are in trouble, as we are in Guyana. People become very entrenched in the singular solution, because it's a kind of collective fear. You know what drives ethnic violence and ethnic conflict around the world is three things. The fear of being disenfranchised, being stripped of your rights, stripped of your ability to govern yourself. It drives that fear in groups. The threat to the dignity of the group is a second cause of ethnic conflict. Then you push people and push people and push people to the point where they feel that they're worth nothing. And you know these Indian chaps that are running the PPP, they haven't studied Black people at a certain level. At a certain level, they studied us, how to manipulate us, and they feel that we can be manipulated. But they really haven't studied that in the process of manipulating, what you are doing is that you are attempting to strip people of their dignity, and human beings do not like to be stripped of their dignity. They may give you the impression that, look, oh God, I'm going to kneel down because I'm hungry, and you're giving me food. And you may get the impression that you've stripped them of their dignity, that you capture them. That's what the slave masters thought. They captured Black people and they will never, ever get out of slavery. And the PPP don't quite understand that what may be working for them is really also working against them. That they've impoverished the Black community, and some Black people are overtly, some covertly kneeling down and begging. But that does not mean that you have crushed their dignity in a total way. And that is why these things come back to haunt you. You know, Frederick Douglass always talked the story when the master went to beat him while he was enslaved as a little boy. And when the master raised the whip to beat him, he squared up to fight. And the master's whip was left in suspense. He didn't expect an enslaved person to raise his hands at him. And that paralyzed him. The thesis of force, but also the thesis of threat of force. And the third thing is dispossession. Dispossess, take away land from people. You make a country like Guyana where land their God country, people got to go and apply for land, and then when they get the land, they don't have the money to pay government for the house lot. A place like Guyana, house lots should be free. 83,000 square miles. 750,000 people. What the hell are we doing paying for land? But you see, we've bought into this thesis that if government makes available land to people, is a handout. The land don't belong to the government. The land is collective. So those three things are the things that drive ethnic conflict and ethnic violence. And if you look at Guyana today, Amerindians and Africans are certainly disenfranchised. They're certainly dispossessed. Well, Africans, that Indians do have some more access to the land than black people have by law. God bless them. Indians do have access to the lands from the old plantations, and black people had bought land, and some of those lands were taken back by the state. And so it's black people who are dispossessed of land. So, and the threat to their dignity. If ever there was a time since emancipation when black people's dignity was being crushed, it's now. And the problem is that people's dignity is being crushed. And it appears as though they don't know and they don't care. It is impossible as a human not to care if your dignity is crushed. It's impossible. You may be slow to act, may be slow to anger, but they know it. And that's the complexity that we are dealing with in the black community. Black people behave as though they don't know that they've been played by all and sundry, because they're choosing survival over freedom. The brother on Kidaki Show a couple of mornings ago said they're choosing today over tomorrow. And it doesn't mean that they don't know what they're doing. But those of us who have been afforded an opportunity to witness on behalf of them, we have to try to make sense of it. See, and that is why I don't make heavy weight of it, because this is not the time to get into disagreements among fighters. We all have political guns in our hands, political guns. And sometimes we turn it on ourselves. We turn it on our brothers, our sisters. Sometimes we don't work out in our heads that there are roles to be played in the struggle. That there's no single road to freedom, and there's no single role. I think I made the point last night that I have earned the right to shake anybody's hand that I want to shake in the political leadership of this country. I also earn the right not to shake hands. And there's some hands I will not shake. But when we reduce our struggle to shake hand or don't shake hand, we get himself in trouble. We have to be very careful. You know, that is why I didn't like the slogan, Ejel must go and Indar must go. It's feel good. No, it's feel good. But the chances of Ejel and Indar going are almost zero. It's almost zero. But we have to have chance of liberation. We have to have chance of liberation. But when the chant becomes the message, and the chant don't work, it means the message don't work. But having said that, I am not saying that there is not a place for those kinds of chants. Ejel must go, Indar must go. There's a place for them, because they give people a short-term burst Sometimes they bring people onto the road. But we have to tactically know the means to the end, or whether it's an end in itself. If the chant becomes an end in itself, and the chant is a chant like Ejel must go, then we end up flat as we are today. Because the MV Barima crescendo has petered out somewhat. And this happens from time to time. I'm not criticizing because I render the chant, Ejel must go, Indar must go. But I was very conscious that it was more rhetoric than substantial. But there is a place for it. You see, the point I was making, if you are, I want to be very careful, I don't want to call people names, but those guys who are crossing over to the PPP, if they shake Ejel hand, you are going to be concerned. Because Ejel gets something in your hand that they want. Ejel has nothing in his hand that I want. That's the difference. And so sometimes, we have to understand this politics, And I wasn't too concerned about it until I heard some of my own supporters worrying about my doctor. I sure shake the one. And our struggle is much more than shaking hands. It's a complex thing we are dealing with. So I haven't heard Natasha's thing, but I understand she said she bemoaned the fact that the point I made last night, that Indian people are not supporting and protecting, well, they may be protecting, I don't know, but certainly they're not supporting in an overt way Hazardin Mohammed. And I think they said that in her video, she called out the Indian community and she referenced the fact that I called them out. And sometimes you have to do that, You pay a price for it. Because nobody is saying it. Although it's obvious. In fact, people are trying to explain it away. Some people tell me that, Mohammed win the election because Indians come out and vote for you. The PPP rigged the Indian vote. I'm sure the PPP rigged the election. I'm very sure of that. But the point is that East Indian people are not running behind Mohammed. Do some of them quietly support him? I'm sure. There may be a critical mass. I don't know. But I am saying that when he's overtly being attacked, Indian people are nowhere to be seen. And we have to explain that to Mohammed and those around him. You see, it's easy to say, I'm APNU. And so those Africans who vote for Win, to hell with them. One can take that escape route. I do not. Those people are also my people. Electorally, no. But in a larger political sense, they know that they can't go to Mohammed and tell him, put his fist in the air and say black power. They know that. And they know when they want the fist of fury in the air, they come to people like me. So when the jackasses are saying, oh, when David Hines look around, when Ogun say look around, they ain't see no soldiers, they ain't see soldiers, are you alone, black people? Are you alone, black man? And hope when you learn, I didn't say, I will tell you. Because what they do is try to simplify black people. You know, we're brainless people. When everybody in the world clinging together, black people deserting their own leader. Where in the world have people of any ethnic group deserted their people, deserted their leaders? They may have differences with their leaders. Some of them may vote against their leaders. But the jackasses who are not dunces. But what comes out is a subtle and not so subtle disdain for black people. They feel that black people are so stupid. And they wonder why I get so angry with them and punch them politically, always. You sit there and you silence the fact. And it's not only Freddie who does it. They all said to them do it. They silence the fact that Indian people vote in a race. And that black people split the vote between APNU and WIN for the most part. And they're celebrating as some great democratic act. I see a chap named Charles Sugrim stand up at Moses Bhagwan book launch and say that. Say that. And they don't know what comes out of their mouth. Is that these people are slaves. They don't think for themselves. They don't think logically. There's an old saying they used to say, when you eat and get nothing, people can open them and put things inside. And that's what they're saying of us black people. I don't believe that is the case. Black people share around their votes more than they've done before, but they've always done it. But to think that they're asinine and Indian people are good, these people are not abusing Indian people for staying in their silos. And African people are leading the way to some renaissance. If they put it away, I may have to rethink my reaction to them. But they're not cursing Indian people. They're silencing the fact or lying that Indian people vote for Mohammed. And they know damn well that is not true. And that is what I'm saying. Political actions may be triggered by noble intent. It don't always have the outcome. And if you notice, black people, before last year's election, they were rooting for an APNU AFC coalition. They were rooting. They invested politically and electorally in it. And I think they were disappointed that it didn't happen. And they went electorally crazy, I think, and started sharing up the vote all over the place, not realizing that it will weaken them on the end. But what you notice now, they're calling out for a WIN APNU coalition. So black people are coalition people. Indian people are not acting in the spirit of coalition. Black people have, in recent years, invested in coalition. the point of acting a little stupid. But they've invested in coalition. Indian people have not made the same investment. And I tell some of my all Indian comrades on the opposition side, I tell it to some all WPA Indians, that the risk you all were prepared to take fighting a black leader, fighting Burnham. Now you have an Indian government who is doing 10 times worse, and you all are not prepared to take that risk. I tell that to my Indian comrades, former WPA members. The risk Indian people were prepared to take, fighting Burnham, they're not taking it now. And you are telling me that that's not a racial action? Many Indian, people like myself, had to hide in many Indian homes during the Burnham time. They were prepared to risk their life, their liberty fighting Burnham. And today, their children are not prepared to do the same. And some of them who are still alive are not prepared to do the same. It has to be said. And I'm not saying they're bad. I'm saying they've made political calculations. At least black people have been consistent. During the Burnham time, black people had a kind of schizophrenic approach. They would vote for the PNC and Burnham, or they would vote for the PNC. They would like Burnham, but some of them were prepared to push back against Burnham and the PNC. It's deep political. And it was driven by a consciousness. It's the broad consciousness that we brought with us from Africa and out of enslavement. Yes, they love Burnham. They voted PNC. But they pushed back against what they saw, correctly or incorrectly, as Burnham's overreach. And it is that same spirit that they are brought into the present. At least they're consistent. You know why the PPP diehards, and they've passed it on to their constituency, why they're angry at a person like me? It's precisely that, because I'm exposing them. So yes, I'm glad. Like I said, I didn't see Natasha's recording. So maybe she didn't say it, but I'm saying one of my friends said that he listened to it and she called on Indians to stand up and to defend Mohammed. And she made reference to the fact that I've made that point and that I'm consistent in my mobilization of African people, and she didn't think it was racism, that I was driven by exactly what she was calling on our fellow Muslims and Indians to do, to stand up against injustice. And at some point, the APNU leaders have to make a case to African people. They have to make a case to African people. Why, in this era of plenty, and in an environment where one major ethnic section of the country is staying in solidarity with the authoritarians. Why African solidarity is important. And I think Amerindian leaders have to make the same point to Amerindian people. We do solidarity politics today, ethnic solidarity politics. I call it ethnic identity politics. I call it ethnic solidarity politics. We do ethnic solidarity today so that we don't have to do it tomorrow. Walter Rodney said that in one of his lesser-known publications. He says that each community has to turn internally, work out itself, answer questions so that when you come together as equals. But how are we going to come together with Indians when Indians are very clear about why ethnic solidarity has to be constant in these times? And we on the African side aren't clear on the question of ethnic solidarity. Ethnic solidarity should not be an end in itself, but certainly it's a means to an end today. If you count up all them $2-3 million contract and all them because we care, and all them little handout that they give him black, if you count all of that up, as a sum total, if you count up the wages that public servants, teachers, nurses, if you count up all them handouts and wages, it will give you a sense of how much money comes into the black community. And if you count up all the handouts and the wages and what comes in from business that goes into the Indian, it will give you a sense of how wide apart the groups are. But don't even talk about the Amerindians. And so what you're having is unequal development, because in societies like ours, the development is not fused, because we don't live in fused societies. They're quote unquote African villages, Indian villages, Amerindian villages. When you go to the urban communities, there are the Indian sections, Prasad Nagar, and then you get the black sections and the Portuguese sections. And so in many cases, you go in a black village, who live there? Teacher, nurse, soldier, police. You go in Indian communities, who live there? Sugar workers, rice farmers, fishermen and fisherwomen, businessmen and businesswomen. And count the money that goes into sugar, rice, fish, and business. And count the money that goes into public service wages. Development in Guyana happens in silos. When you pass an African village, you can tell, no matter how much big house they put up, you can tell when you're passing through an African village and when you're passing through an Indian village. The other day I went to West Berbice there, and I always know bush rat was like the Indian tongue on West Berbice. Oh Lord, when we watch bush rat, we say, Lord God, this is no more than a tongue. Long time you pass through bush rat, you see tractor and so on thing. No, you see money. And so therefore, while Africans tend, some of us tend to feel that, look, we are going to take the individual approach. to the wealth that is coming. Whereas Indians are taking both the individual and the collective approach. In fact, they're fusing the individual with the collective. The fisherman, when money story come, he becomes a sugar worker. So you get fisherman grant, sugar grant. And then he tell you picnic, become a rice farmer. So you get rice farmer grant. And it's not 100,000. By the time they don't get fish grant, sugar grant, rice grant, cash grant, because we care grant. Even at that level at the bottom of the ladder, there is a vast difference. And the PPP make it happen. I confronted the minister. I said, give me a little money when we can give black people a hamper. And let me push the freck in the hamper for them every month. He laughed. He said, why me must make you? Why me must make you credit? Why me must make you get credit? It's no open secret. PPP leaders, ministers, every month end, they make sure these hampers go into the Indian communities. It happened right here in Annandale. There are Indian people I know from Annandale show me the hamper them. And the hamper them not get food, you get you $60,000 push in there. And my Indian friends say, when a hamper come, you're not worried with food, you push it on the bottom, forget about $60,000 and $70,000. And then you look after the food in the hamper afterwards. You say me rent I get pay. So even at the lower level of the working class people, the Indian working class is getting more than the African working class and the Amerindian working class. So it is dangerous. It is dangerous to the survival of Amerindians and Africans for them to take a solely and wholly WHOLE individual approach to this thing. You have to take both the individual approach and the collective approach. That's what Indians are doing. And so they maximize a little bit more for themselves than the African who is happy with $1 million. And then when he gets the $1 million, or 2 million, or 3 million, or 4 million, he buy a car. And when he's ready for buy parts for the car, he can in the Indian community. Because parts of car are not selling black community. So the little money he get, not circulating in the own black community. The Indian community already get fish grant, sugar grant, rice grant, cash grant, and then they get the grant from black people who are going to spend their money over there. So the individual approach brings little or nothing to the black community. Because even when you get the little money in your individual hand, you go and you spend it outside the community. And you're spending it outside the community not because you want to empower the other community. It's because a lot of the things you need is not in your community. And so you have to go outside your community to get it. I wanted I think a battery from car alarm. And I asked them, I just said, then get nobody in box near sell them. They said, back times, what do you? What do you? And I wasn't talking race. again, Indian people live in Buxton. And if an Indian person was selling car battery here, what you call it, alarm battery, I would prefer to spend my money and buy it from that Indian in Buxton than an Indian in Enmore. Because the Indian in Buxton, the money is more likely to circulate in Buxton. So I wasn't even gone to race. I was just talking community. Of course, the two are fused there because for the most part, our communities are racialized. Indian brother met me the other night out in Buxton. I asked me, "Sir, by where your name?" He tell me his name. I said, "Where you live?" He tell me where you live. He said, "I am so pleased to meet you in person." I said, He said, "Yes." And of course, he said, I don't fit. I think there's some young ladies out there. And I didn't even know the Indian chap was standing there. So I was telling the young ladies and the young men, them, you all are the future. You're all black and beautiful and so on. And everybody had a good laugh and thing. And he was saying that he didn't realize I was not such an intense person as I am made out to be. But later on in the night, he was arguing with his black friends and say, you all got to join with people like Dr. Hines and stop these schooly people that rule in you all. He was fighting with his young black friends. So Indian people on the ground are aware of the privilege that come. Privilege may not be a right word because what they get compared with what the Indian elite get, you can't call it privilege. But they're aware that it's easier even for a poor Indian to navigate this situation. And he's telling his young black friends, you are going to put an end to it. First of all, he's an Indian guy at 2 o'clock in the morning in a black village, hanging out with the black racists, as he put it. And nobody am beating me or doing anything. The myth that some or the other, we are beasts, when we are perhaps the most welcoming people on earth. And here's that Indian brother fighting the black youngsters and telling them, he said, I ain't gonna put an end to it, black. I ain't gonna look to Indian people. They ain't gonna do it for you all. I'm not throwing stones at Brother Mohammed. I think Brother Mohammed has gotten a gift. And when you get a gift, you try to get as much as you can from the gift. Brother Mohammed didn't come to the black community and ask them for their votes. They take their votes and give him. God bless them and God bless him for taking advantage of it. Not advantage in a bad sense. I don't think I've seen that yet. But taking advantage in the sense that using it to further his political ambitions. Why not? You don't have to beg for it. You don't have to fight for it. It's falling in your lap. But there is a limitation to which an Indian leader in Guyana could deliver for black people what black people really want. Brother Mohammed is doing work for black people in that he's telling us where the corruption is. So he's helping the cause, the opposition cause, the black people cause. He's telling us the corruption is here, the corruption is there, the corruption is there. He's doing a good turn. But the objective is beyond telling us where the corruption is getting this PPP out of office. But Mohammed is not going to deliver that for black people. They got to deliver that for themselves. And that's where the model falls apart. And that's where we are, and that's where we have to talk through this thing. And I get frustrated sometimes with the linear, simplistic answer that I hear from some of our people. But then you wake up in the morning and you say, but you know, I've heard that for the last 50 years. Why am I beating up on myself? I've heard that. The more oppressed people come sometimes, the more radical they become and they take radical action, but also the more oppressed people become, sometimes the more docile they become, the more they look outside rather than inside for their own freedom. As political people, we have to work those things through. And even among us radicals, we do have tactical differences. Some of us feel that we should go straight for the jugular. Some of us feel that we ain't going straight for the door. We're going to go around the door and come round so. So we do have differences among radicals, but at least we are intent on one thing, is that the PPP has to go, and it's not going to go through elections. The PPP has captured the elections machinery. We have to participate in elections because when you participate in elections, you get a chance to mobilize your people for something. But you have to do it in such a way that when 2020 comes or 2025 comes, your people are not left empty-handed. I think after 2020, we were not left empty-handed. There was still a spirit of resistance and revolution. But I think in 2025, the strategy that we took meant that we were either going for, we weren't even trying to get the PPP out of office. As it turned out, most of the opposition, not the APNU, but most of the other opposition were looking for an outcome of a minority government. So concede the presidency to the PPP. Yes, that was the tactic. That was the tactic for the rest of the opposition, I think. The APNU was trying to win. The others weren't trying to win. They were trying to give well, not give, but concede the presidency to the PPP and get what they call a parliamentary majority where they can hold the PPP. That was not the WPA's position. It was not the APNU position. We wanted to win or to come as close as possible to win. Our comrades, most of them, didn't want to win the presidency. They conceded the presidency before the election. And so that is why they weren't enthusiastic about collating with the APNU. And some of our people were lured in that direction, either intentionally or unintentionally. Some of our people bought into this notion of the minority government and so voted the way they voted. That tactic, depending on what you couldn't control. It depended on a critical mass of Indian people breaking ranks with the PPP. They did it in 2011. They did it in 2015. And I think they did it less so in 2020, very less so. But they did it in 2015 and 2020. They broke ranks. But they broke ranks because they had somebody that they trusted. And that was Nagamootoo, and to some extent, Brother Ramjatan. They trusted them and they broke ranks. In 2025, we didn't have a Ramjatan. We didn't have a Nagamootoo. People felt that Mohammed could have played that role. As it turned out, Mohammed couldn't play that role and didn't play that role. And the whole tactic fell apart because it was hinged on Mohammed getting Indian votes, not black votes. And both Indian people and black people, smart the leaders, tricked them. They didn't want black votes they weren't rooting for the black votes to go to Mohammed. They were rooting for the black votes to go to them. And Mohammed would bring Indian votes like Nagamutu. Well, the Indians didn't go with Mohammed and the blacks go with Mohammed. And now, not one of them has faced their people and said we were wrong. And the fact that you all are so fractured today is because we lead you all down the wrong road. None of them came out and said it. As I said, Tuesday, I cannot comment. Not that I cannot, but I decide, the WPA decided I should not comment on the outcome of the meeting between WIN and APNU. I think today they said that the joint statement is likely before the end of the day, and everybody has a right to question why 4 days, 5 days after meeting you can't put out a joint statement. People have a right to question that. I will not comment on it because it would not be the right thing to do since I was part and parcel of the APNU delegation. But you're right to ask those questions. All I would say for now is see the link between what you did on September 1st, 2025, and the fact that after 5 days, the organizations that you vote for can't agree on a press statement. You all think about it. You all are blaming the leaders. A lot of you, the leaders. Why? Yes, leaders sometimes make possible out of impossibility. But apparently in this case, that's difficult. But if you give your leaders basket to fetch water, oh man. Oh, if you give your leaders basket to fetch water, I'll just let David and say it. I know there's some things we have to say, yeah? We in the WPA and other parties like ours, there's some things we can say. You all give your leaders basket to fetch water. That's not in your intention. I put my head on the block. That was not your intention when you enter the ballot box on September 4th and decide, I'm putting me X to the APNU. You were not thinking that way. You were not thinking, you were thinking that I'm voting for change. And I believe that you all thought you were voting for change. If anybody had come to tell you all that you all are voting here for a change which would make it almost impossible for a joint statement to agree on between these two parties you all voted for, people, you all would say, no man, you liars. Do not separate your vote on September 4th from what is facing you September 1st coming up next week, Tuesday the 4th, no? By September 1st of next year, the two parties that you vote for can't agree on a statement after 5 days. That is where you vote for, that is where you get. You give your leaders, both WIN and APNU, basket to fetch water. We learn as we go along. We learn as we go along. I love all of you all equally. I love Win Black. I love APNU Black. I love PNC, PPP Black. We come on the same ship from the same place. And we must pull one common intention for we women and we children. If we come on the same ship from the same place, but we put ourselves in different boats, things not regular.